Hey man, we're gonna become great buddies. I'll support you no matter what. You're like a little brother to me. We'll rule the East against the capital West. Khrushchev took over the USSR after Stalin died and started de-Stalinization. Yeah, Stalingrad? No, absolutely not. Volgograd is so much better. Mao Zedong disliked Khrushchev and his ideologies, which made China drift away from its big brother, the USSR. Their relations worsened when Mao attempted to out-industrialize the USSR in hopes of becoming the main global leaders of communism. In 1956, Mao would send 1.5 million soldiers to the border of the Soviets, which ended ties between the two powerful communist nations.
I hate you! You were my brother, Anakin! I loved you!
Hey man, we're gonna be great buddies. I'll support you no matter what. You're like a little brother to me. During the Vietnam War, the Soviet Union and China both supported Ho Chi Minh against the US in South Vietnam. This is awkward. Yeah, I don't trust you, bro. China would pull its troops out of Vietnam to defend its nation in fear against the Soviet Union. From a Cold War perspective, the United States saw an opportunity to one-up the Soviet Union by getting China on its side. You see, Mao, we should actually team up against those Soviets, you know what I mean? Nixon became boys with Mao, and after the Vietnam War, the Cold War took a turn. Instead of the capitalist East versus the communist West, it was now the US and China versus the Soviet Union and Vietnam. Then we have Cambodia, who was an ally of North Vietnam, until Pol Pot was like, man, those Vietnamese, they're getting so powerful and could control us one day. I want all Viet supporters arrested, I want all Viet bases removed, and I want cross-border raids on Viet villages. Also, kill 2 million people who disobey me. On Christmas Day 1978, Vietnam invaded Cambodia to end Pol Pot's views on anti-Viet government and genocide. By January 1979, Viet soldiers entered I even know how to pronounce this, Phnom Penh, and overthrew the Khmer Rouge government. Pol Pot and the rest of his men dipped to the west to the Thai-Cambodian border, which caused tensions between Vietnam and Thailand. Now let's rewind a bit to China. Mao was boys with Pol Pot, and the two nations were very close even after Mao's death in 1976. Mao would make Hua Guifeng his successor. However, political parties favored this guy, Deng Xiaoping, for opening trade investments with the US, which saved China's economy. In 1979, the Sino-Soviet Treaty of Friendship and Alliance officially expired. Vietnam aligned itself with Soviets at Moscow. The Khmer Rouge was overthrown, and China would grow closer with the US. With all these components, Deng Xiaoping saw an opportunity to reform China into an economic superpower, as well as to weaken the Soviet Union's global reputation. On February 17th, Deng would send 200,000 Chinese troops to invade Vietnam on two border fronts in retaliation for Vietnam's occupation of Cambodia. Yeah! With this invasion, Viet forces in Cambodia should withdraw to defend their homeland. Sir, 300,000 Vietnamese soldier ground forces are coming to defend Hanoi from our invasion. Dang it! China would capture a few major cities in North Vietnam, and Vietnam would inflict many casualties on Chinese PLAs, making the victor of this war debatable between the two nations. China would launch scorched earth during their withdrawal, devastating properties, homes, and farmland in North Vietnam March 16. Now, you might be wondering, why didn't the Soviet Union assist Vietnam? Well, it's actually because they would have to cross Chinese and US allied territories to reach Vietnam. In the 1980s, after seeing that Soviet Union
not assisting Vietnam,
Soviet allies like Afghanistan favored US powers, which would eventually lead to the Soviet-Afghan War. The Soviets would also provide large financial aid for Vietnam to maintain its military. Both of these factors would actually contribute to the fall of the USSR due to a drop in economy. China's failure to get Vietnam out of Cambodia would lead to border naval skirmishes between the two until Vietnam withdrew from Cambodia in 1989 due to a reduction in Soviet aid. The official end of border conflicts between Vietnam and China would happen on New Year's Eve 1999 when both nations signed the Treaty of Land Border in Hanoi. And despite Mao Zedong and Ho Chi Minh being close allies back in the day, Vietnam and China, due to the Sino-Vietnamese War, are not really the best of friends anymore to this day. So with these past videos, I have covered the First, Second, and Third Indochina War. And just like that, the history of Vietnam.